Today, I want to talk to you guys about why I choose credit unions over big banks. So stay tuned. My name is Jay, and welcome to Ask a Debt Collector. Now, I've been in the debt collection industry for over 15 years. I've done it all, from skip tracing to collecting to management, and I've owned 2 debt collection agencies. For the past 8 years, I've been the go-to guy for friends and family for questions regarding debt and credit, and now I want to be that person for you. If you have any questions, put them down in the comment section. I promise I'll answer those questions. Let's go. The reality of the matter is I've had bank accounts through big banks, and for those of you who don't know what I mean when I say big banks, those are banks such as Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, TD Bank, etc. Versus credit unions are all banks that have credit union at the end. San Diego County Credit Union, Navy Federal Credit Union. I even had First Future Credit Union, but I believe First Future is no longer around. But nevertheless, those are the 2 different things when I say credit unions versus big banks. For those of you who may have not known. But nevertheless, I've had checking accounts through both of those entities, and I can basically give you my opinion with regards to them, right? So, the difference between both of those banks, one is for-profit, one is non-profit. Now, for-profit basically means that you have to pay taxes on your net income. Non-profit typically means you're exempt from income taxes. The big banks are for-profit. The credit unions are typically non-profit banks. Now, the second big difference between the big banks and the credit unions is one is publicly owned. The other one is privately owned. Credit unions are typically privately owned, which means what? That either private investors own it or the actual bank is owned by its founders or management. Versus a publicly owned company either gave up a certain percentage of the company or a large percentage of the company was publicly traded. They had an initial IPO, and people like myself, anybody can go down and buy shares. Like for or let's say for Chase Bank or Bank of America, I believe you can go right on to the stock exchange and you can buy shares of that company. You become part owner of that company as you buy the shares. Now, let's talk about why I choose credit unions over big banks. Number one reason is the interest rates on loans. Typically through credit unions, from my experience, every time I've gotten a loan through them, the interest rates are typically lower. For a car loan, the interest rates were always lower than it was when I went through a publicly traded bank. Another thing is lower fees. Now, I don't know about how many of you guys are out there, and I don't even know what banks actually do it right now, but I know that a lot of these big banks, typically, if you have a checking account and a savings account, when you open them up, you got to have a specific balance in your checking account and a specific balance in your savings account to avoid any fees. I remember when at the time, I opened up a Wells Fargo account, and I had to pay fees out the butt because I had to keep my savings account above $300, and I think my checking account, it was like $200. And so, yeah, it's only $500. It shouldn't be so hard, but sometimes things pop up. Sometimes things happen. At this time span, if you don't have much money and you're one of those type of people who live check to check, going with a big bank can cost you even more money, right? Not having money always is going to cost you more money in America. That's just the way it is. It's the way it's always been. But yeah, I remember racking up all kinds of fees with regards to the account. And it was just simply because I didn't have a high enough balance in my bank account. Versus whenever I had credit unions, I remember with one of the credit unions that I opened up, all you had to have was $5 in the savings account. And basically, they don't even put it where it's available until you close the account out. So that $5, they take it, they have it in the account. You'll have a zero balance, and you get that $5 once you close that savings account. But there aren't any fees. I've had a balance on my account at $0 and they never charge me any fees, typically with credit unions versus the big banks. The third and final reason why I like credit unions over big banks is typically your savings rates are going to be higher with credit unions. Why is this? I think it deals with the number of credit unions, because typically they're local. So, for instance, San Diego County Credit Union, they're only going to service in San Diego versus Chase Bank services all throughout the United States, right? So when you have a smaller bank, typically you're going to get the customer service is going to be a little better, I would say, in those instances. You're going to get more of a one-on-one banking situation with a San Diego, with a credit union that's, San Diego County Credit Union, for instance, that way. Because, obviously in San Diego, I believe there's about 13 or 14 branches. I'm not sure, maybe give or take, versus Chase is probably like 50 to 100. And so you go to your local spot, you just get more of more of a in-person type situation. Every time I go to my credit union, they know me by my first and last name. They're constantly talking to me. It makes you feel a little more important versus when I go inside of Chase, because I currently have a bank account with Chase as well. They see so many people all the time that a lot of times, outside of your typical, hey, how are you doing? What can I help you with? That's it, versus I can build a rapport with people at the credit unions, right? Because they know who I am, they know me personally, they know my personality and so forth. And I believe, now don't quote me on this, but when it comes to getting loans and so forth, when you have a rapport with someone, I believe at the credit union is a little easier to get those loans. And, it's going to be based obviously on your credit, but sometimes, being a good person and so forth can take you a further way. They'll give you more information with regards to why things happen and why things aren't happening for you. Now, as a debt collector, in general, I tell people to go with credit unions because there's no fees, right? You're not going to be charged all these fees and so forth a lot of times. And, they're more friendly when it comes to you as a consumer. You're not looked at, in essence, like a number, right? I've even had friends that's worked at credit unions and have worked at big banks. And typically at the big banks, it's all about the numbers, right? Crunching the numbers, getting the numbers, and getting as many people and doing that. Now with credit unions, obviously they want as many members as well, but it's just more of an impersonal thing, right? It's like your small mom and dad pop shop at the corner versus your Walmart. You go inside Walmart, chances are you're going to see somebody that you don't know. You go inside the small dad and pop shop, they're going to treat you a little more important. Why? Because you determine how successful that business is. So they're going to have a little more emphasis on making sure that the customer is treated correctly versus, at Walmart, they don't care. They're getting so many customers. It's just numbers now. It becomes a numbers game versus, integrity and so forth. And not that the big banks don't have integrity and so forth, but when you're dealing with numbers versus people, there's a big difference, okay? So understand that. So that's why I choose credit unions. If you don't have a bank account with a credit union, I encourage you to get a bank account with a credit union. If you want to keep your big bank, still keep it, but get that credit union and you'll see what I'm talking about. If you have any questions, put them down in the comment section. I promise I'll answer those questions. And as always, you be great.